Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today we'll be discussing the big top secret game, Project Teaser, or as I like to call it, Europa Universalis 5, as does most everyone like to call it. The game's Europa Universalis 5, but it's still secret and unannounced. Even though we're talking about it, it's still very, very secret. Don't get it twisted. It's secret. Nobody knows about it. It's secret. Very secretive. No one's heard about it. Big secret. Big top. And so we are going to be talking about this game. What we are going to be talking about is going to be Colonization, a relatively short dev diary, but more importantly, we've gotten what is now the 6th or 7th Happy Wednesday in a row. Absolutely tremendous. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the 25th one, the happiest of Wednesdays, where we will give you lots of information about our upcoming, still secret, very secret, very secret, very secret, and unannounced game with the codename of Project Teaser, or as some people like to pronounce it, Teaser. Today we will delve into the mechanics of colonization, another aspect of painting the map. We do like to paint. Okay, and we will get started. Power projection. One important factor that has a big impact on colonialism is power projection. Each country has a power projection value, and it is primarily to allow the country to be able to exploit those with a lower power projection. Fantastic. Power projection is very dependent on how advanced a country is, where each age has an advance that gives you about plus 10 of it. So if you're ahead in ages, you will be able to be ahead in power projection. It is also modified by societal values, rank, so kingdom, empire, this type of stuff of the country, and more. One important aspect is that for the plus 10 advance of age of traditions is the advance of tree from meritocracy. Is the plus 10 advance for Age of Traditions is in the advanced tree for meritocracy, from the meritocracy. So that's important because meritocracy actually starts in the east, if I recall correctly, from previous dev diaries. You do not gain power projection by doing specific actions like in EU4, but it's entirely based on your country's current setup. Okay, and we see an example here in Sweden where we have Outward and Kingdom giving us plus 6.5, and of course the reminder that the Sweden was properly balanced modifier has not yet been developed, which of course we're going to see Sweden be OP as we do. Big sad. Colonial charters. So how does colonization work in Project Teaser? Well, you colonize by starting a colonial charter in a province for an upfront fee of gold. And so that is in a province, not a location, as far as I can tell. So you will be colonizing a larger area that has several locations in it. Then each month some of the population will be moving from the homeland to the colonial charter until all locations that can be owned are owned by you. So you will colonize multiple locations at once, I think, or maybe one at a time. Not sure exactly how this is going, but that's how long the colonial charter will last, and you will look to get singular provinces at a time. In almost all cases, there are people living in a location you will want to colonize, so for you to be able to charter to flip your ownership, there are a few rules. A location needs to have at least 1,000 people living there, and a certain percentage of the population needs to follow your state religion and need to be of accepted culture of your country. So this means that if you're going to colonize an area that is much higher in population, you are going to need to send more people, which makes some sense. Progress for the sake of progress must be discouraged, never. We do see a nice little kind of tooltip here. Colonial Charter is sending a bunch of people, and we see the progression. So it does look like it's going to progress on multiple simultaneously, and there's 100% here and here, and then a smattering of percentages, but it looks like it's also filling up mainly the first couple at a time. So and these are locations within the province. The percentage depends heavily on the difference in power projection of your country. So this is going to again make it easier if you have a lot of power projection to colonize with lower numbers of people. Very cool that I mean, if you can lean into and manipulate your power projection for the purposes of being better at colonizing, this would be really cool, but I'm not sure that's going to be that viable. It makes it sound like this is going to be able to affect more than just colonization, so that would maybe be a little bit strong. Next week we'll give you, yes, I said countries plural, and next week you will get an understanding of what you're talking about. So there's going to be multiple countries in a location, And maybe this is if we're having overlapping colonization. I'm not sure what this means, but of course we're going to find out about it next Happy Wednesday. This has the implication that at the start of the game, Yuan could in theory start colonizing Europe. So this is the memey and maybe interesting thing. And to be fair, China just decided to turn very inward during the Ming Dynasty, which is the one following the Yuan. Yuan collapsed right kind of just a little bit after the game start, the 1337 game start. In terms of alternative history, Yuan not collapsing and or China not turning inward, things could have been dramatically different. And so this is kind of an alternative timeline that I'm interested in maybe playing, and colonizing Europe as China just seems like a bit of a meme, and would be kind of fun and amusing. If it had only been closer and discovered. So this is probably going to be the difficulty is getting I know you could like rush in EU4 you could rush colonization of certain areas as like Portugal, if you like play a certain way, and maybe there will be some way to be able to colonize Europe as China. How the countries and pops already present in a location react to colonization is something that will be clarified later Tinto talks. And so this is a little bit interesting because can you just kind of colonize anyone? I'm not sure what exactly this means, but like if you could colonize people who like in EU4 you can only colonize like uncolonized territories, but the fact that we're talking about countries and pops already present in a location react to your colonization is a little bit different because can we just colonize anyone? It's just going to be extraordinarily difficult if they have a power level, power projection above like a certain level, and so natives are going to have really low power projection, and that's why you can colonize them. Not there's going to be areas where it's just natives and this type of thing, implying that you could colonize anyone if the difference in power projection is high enough. Something like this is a bit interesting. As long as you have a colonial charter, people from your own locations will start moving to locations in the colonial charter. The amount of people moving is rather low at the start of the game, makes sense, but advances will increase in later ages. Societal values also have an impact on it, as does the distance to the colony. And one thing to take into account is that colonization does not magically create new pops out of air. Terrible. And being able to create a huge colonial empire is not feasible with a low population country. This, of course, makes sense. Full speed ahead, only 40 months to the location to get 1,000 pops. That's not too bad. 3 years. Colonial charters are not free, and moving people is definitely not free, and countries need to support them. The higher the population in the target province, the more expensive it is to colonize. This makes a whole bunch of sense, because you're going to need to send more than 1,000 people there, although I don't know if the cost is going to scale with how many people you're currently supporting in your colony, but that it is going to take a larger threshold of people to earn the colony. It makes sense that it would cost more. The distance also has an impact, but colonizing in the same area or region as your capital is significantly cheaper. You can always cut costs to your charters, but then that will reduce the amount of pops moving there every month. We see we see the cost of settling in this Norwegian or not Norwegian, Scandinavian area, because I'm not sure yet. I don't think that's Norwegian. But the Scandinavian area here is going to cost us some ducats, 0.35, and we see the modifier same region is minus 33%. Colonial nations. When a colonial charter is finished, all possible locations in the province become yours. You have multiple options what you will want to do with that charter. If the province is very close, remembering that control is an essential element, and having stuff close to your capital allows you to maintain more control and maintain more control over the economic activity there. If it's really far away, you won't actually be able to properly govern the area. But if the province is close and you think you get decent enough control over it, you may just want to keep the locations as part of your home country. You also have the option to form a new colonial nation or have it join an adjacent colonial nation. So this is going to be a subject nation. Colonial nations are a subject nation type that cannot be annexed, but has a few advantages or disadvantages depending on your point of view. In that while they start transferring less gold than a vassal would, they also grant some manpower and sailors, while also giving some parts of their merchants to their overlord. And so this is going to be probably the way that you really develop a lot of wealth with your colonial subjects, or at least if I recall correctly from EU4, like if you had a colonial nation over a certain size, they would give you a merchant. And this was one of the really big values because you could really get a lot of trade steering by having a lot of merchants. To clarify, you can make colonial nations anywhere on the map where you can colonize, even if it's close to you, but of course, if you have a lot of control in an area, it probably doesn't make sense. Supporting the colonies. If you feel that your charters or colonial nations are not growing enough, there are two tools you can use in the cabinet. So this is going to occupy one of your cabinet members, and of course there's an opportunity cost involved with that, but it allows you to kind of specialize and customize what you're going for. Both of these become available from advances of the Age of Discovery. With the supporting colonial charter, you will move pops from a province you decide upon and to the colonial charter you have decided. So this allows you to engage in a little bit of curation of your people, let's call it. Some like to call it some other stuff. Those some people are probably right. The amount of pops getting moved depends on your current colonial migration capacity, so you can use it to double the migration to be specific. So when you use it, you can about double the migration to be specific. Okay, with the supported colonies, you can move 100 pops each month from a selected province to a target province in a colonial nation subject. This can be useful when you want to boost a colony and you have overpopulated provinces. So this is for colonizing and getting the places to begin with, and this is to support things that are already colonized. This can be useful when you want to boost a colony and you have overpopulated provinces at home, or when you think a country would be in a better, or if you think your country would be in a better situation and you could expel some minorities. We do like expelling some minorities. Restrictions on colonization. There are several ways which can block other nations from colonizing certain places, including diplomatic treaties. At the start of the game, Norland, Finland, Karjala, Kola are all under the claims of Sweden and Novgorod, who have divided the area between them. So, we could colonize some areas of Europe as Yuan, but some areas, it'll be interesting to see what the logic is that makes stuff off limits. But it does seem to be the case that this is at the very least off limits. I think there's some comment in response to this dev diary where someone asked if you could colonize France in theory as Yuan, and the answer was yes. So I assume there's maybe some way that you could possibly get around this treaty. It would just require fighting Sweden and or Novgorod or something like this. Okay, we also have the Treaty of Tortillas, where the New World will also be split among the Catholic powers, with a lot of interesting dynamics. Next week, we will be back to talk about the difference between countries and why owning locations is not all there is to life. And so maybe we get a little bit about building tall and this type of stuff. And what is this teaser for next week about? Are they really teasing us about a teaser for Project Teaser? You can't tease a teaser. That's not allowed. Is it allowed? Let me know below. We teased the teaser, but that's colonization. As far as we know, I feel like playing it within the system will make a lot more sense than. This does seem like a little bit of an abstraction, and so maybe we'll have a better idea once we see kind of some of the other moving parts that are being interacted with it here, as well as some of the numbers and what can be colonized. I guess is the biggest thing, because if you can colonize France as you want, or bits and pieces of France as you want, distance and discovery aside, then I would like to see like what the exact rules are on this type of stuff, but it's also not fundamentally important. But I do think that this mechanic of power projection is pretty nice. Anyways, if you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a good day.